And it's Wednesday afternoon here on 90.3 FM. That means it's Joe Steckler Day, helping seniors of Brevard. And let's introduce the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard, none other than Joe Steckler. Good afternoon, Joe.
Good afternoon, John, and welcome to you listeners to another edition of Helping Seniors. Helping Seniors was designed in 2011 to help seniors and those that care for seniors to get information, to be educated about policies and programs that could help them, and in a final analysis to connect those people to the services that they need. And we don't do this by giving people a bunch of money or anything like that. Lord, we barely have enough to get by ourselves. But what we do is have a radio show like we're going to talk about today, a television show. All this stuff is archived. I do articles in newspapers that help people be informed about the many, many wonderful services that we have in Brevard County that take care of people. And, you know, there are some sources that we hear about a lot. We hear a lot about lawyers, Kerry and John, but we don't hear about some of the stuff that's something we don't often think about, like Dr. Kevin Kilday. Dr. Kevin Kilday is you're a psychologist, right, Kevin?
No, sir. I'm a pastoral counselor and also a holistic practitioner.
Yeah, but you're not a psychologist too?
No, sir. I do. I do some pastoral counseling, some biblical counseling.
Okay, I don't know why I got that mixed up in there, but I sure did. So on the broadcast today, I'll ask you to straighten our listeners and me out. But we also have Breanna and Jessica from Enhanced Property Realties, and there's so many things that people need to know about that they don't when we get into the business of selling, and we have a problem like we do with this pandemic today, the COVID-19, and so many uncertainties in our country, so many things that are scaring people that some of them we need to be scared about, some others we don't need to be scared about. And it's causing an awful change for so many people. So, having said what I said, first, I want to start with you, Dr. Kilday. You wanted to talk about the pandemic. You wanted to talk about the coronavirus. You wanted to talk about anxiety, depression, how all these things affect everything that's going on in our country. And Breanna and Jessica ask about, whether or not to do a sort of a combined show or a separate show. But I think that so many people are affected by something they don't think about at times, that it's time we started thinking about how programs mix and match and how they're important. So with that thought in mind, how about Dr. Kevin, you take off on the first part of it, and then we'll bring Jessica and Breanna in on how they found a change in marketing real estate and selling real estate and doing fixer-uppers that we didn't do in the past. So we would really like to think about it. And so how about you do a little bit of talking, and Kevin and Kerry, you think about how you're going to talk about it too. Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, thank you for having me here today. My name is Dr. Kevin Kilday. I run a company called Holistic Health Center, and I help people with chronic health conditions. And also my specialties are alternative cancer solutions, as well as natural pain relief and I also help people naturally to get off of drugs and alcohol. So I've been around for a long time, doing these type of services. I meet people on a one-to-one basis, except for during this pandemic we have going on. So I'm going to switch over soon to like the telemed, the type of conferencing. You're using video calls and Skype and Zoom and those other kind of applications. It's something totally new to me. I'm used to just a one-on-one consultation, but I help people with lifestyle changes and good eating habits and supplements to help with their chronic health conditions, and I also write. I write for the Senior Scene magazine on most cases a monthly basis, as well as Spotlight magazine. I've been writing for them for a number of years now, and also for the Ebony News Today, which is a African American newspaper I write for. So with that said, the whole pandemic, of course, has really made a lot of lives, a lack of a better word, upside down. Nobody around today has ever experienced something like this. Before I go on any further, anybody have any questions?
Kevin, I would like to know something, and it's something that Jessica, maybe you and you, Breanna, could also comment on this. Honestly, how much are you all concerned about what has happened, the seriousness of what we're faced with wearing the mask, social distancing, closing of businesses, upsetting of lives? There's so many things that are happening in our country right now. It's hard to pinpoint what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes I wonder if what we're doing is really right or not. And Kevin, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I do follow the news broadcasts and enjoy watching the president talk and all of his specialists backing him up, and so I practice the recommended safety measures as I go outside. 6 feet apart, and I also wear a mask. So I practice those suggested safety measures. But it also it can play a lot on you mentally. I mean, for instance, like a fear of the unknown is very common, which causes a lot of anxiety and and people are who are already depressed. It could be making them worse, and so these are some of the things, anxiety, about what's going to go on in the future. So these make, people, and also, the old term cabin fever, but being around, in your house for the, for the past 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, it can really play havoc with you mentally, and also, it will trickle down to you physically, if you don't get, some control over it. I mean, physically, we have increased stress because of all this, and stress, increases your cortisol levels. With a chronic stress can also, cause some health issues, and there's also been a large increase in the use of medicines for these, mental health issues. There's been an increase in the use of antidepressants. There's been an increase in use of anxiety medicine. People are drinking, a lot more. Since that's one of the essential businesses that stayed open, and also the use of illegal drugs too is on the increase. This is all because of the trying to deal with this pandemic that nobody ever experienced before.
Kevin, did you? I think I got you to say were the ABC stores considered an essential business?
Yeah, they've been open, and there's been every time I drive by the parking lot nearby me, it's full.
I guess I just don't understand.
Well, I mean, it's a way of for people who who do not have an addiction problem. It's a way for them to escape reality, at least for a few hours, or whatever they may do. People are even having I understand Facebook parties. So people like to have fun, and just like anything else, it's just as long as you don't overdo it. And if it does become a problem, then then there is help out there. I mean, I can help, and there's phone numbers to call and everything. But mental health issues, every single one of them, and addictions have gone up during this pandemic, and worse of all, suicides have gone up also, which is very tragic and sad. But anybody, I even mentioned in my article, anybody thinking about hurting themselves is to just call 911 immediately. So.
Well, I for the last 6 months been following the suicides in the military, and I do understand that. But Jessica and Breanna, hearing what Dr. Kilday has talked about on his side of the story for this pandemic, how has this affected your ability to help people buy and sell houses? How has this impacted your business, and what are you doing to help people get around this coronavirus and so they feel comfortable in trying to live an everyday life like we used to do 3 months ago?
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Joe, again, for having us on here as well. This is Jessica with Enhanced Property Investments. I have Breanna here with me. And as always, thanks for giving us the chance to assist our Brevard seniors. Honestly, I think Dr. Kilday hit the nail on the head. The fear of the unknown is where this pandemic is really starting to, just impact a lot of different industries and just people in general. It's something that a lot of people can't wrap their head around, and we definitely see the effects of that in our industry as well. Obviously people understand that things like this can affect the real estate market in a good way or a bad way. But right now, again, it's just that uncertainty of where will this take us. Luckily, we have seen some positive things come in from the government side as far as things like rent assistance, some mortgage assistance for homeowners. So there are positive things coming in. And again, like Dr. Kilday said, we don't want to cause panic in anyone at this point. I think, unfortunately, that's where, things eventually roll down to, is that people start to feel panic. But from our industry, I mean, if you're in a situation as a property owner that you need to sell, real estate is still operating. Yes, it's a lot different than normal. You're not going and sitting down with a buyer anymore, and you're not going and sitting down at a title office and shaking hands and doing those normal things, which unfortunately we love that part of the business where we do get to do one-on-one with a lot of our clients. But, that's just not the same operation where we're at right now. So things have been changing. I think a lot of people are kind of holding their breath to see where things continue to turn. But the future of the real estate market is a little uncertain right now. We are on the side of essential service. So a lot of professionals in our space are still operating. You can still close at a title office. Courthouses are still processing things. They're just doing it differently. But then there is still obviously the understanding that a lot of people are losing their jobs, not able to pay their rents, not able to pay their mortgages, which will eventually roll up to a couple more problems in our industry as well. We are trying to operate as normally as possible. We are still continuing, to help as many people as we can. Also, like Dr. Kilday said, we're not really doing as many one-on-one sit-downs anymore, but, we are open to video consultations or FaceTime walkthroughs to connect with sellers. We don't see as many buyers in our side of things just from our business operation, but there are people still buying houses right now. We have 2 that we're in the process of selling. Buyers are still out there, but it's a little harder for an occupied home right now. So if you're living in your house or if you have a tenant in your house, a lot of people don't want to come and see that house because of the social distancing and everyone trying to stay safe. So it makes it difficult on that side. But we are operating as normally as we can. We are still purchasing properties. We're still trying to assist as many people as we can. So trying to move it forward.
Well, I think that in my lifetime, I've learned that when we have a real crisis in our country, there is a tendency for the government to throw money at fixing the problem, whatever it is. And Kerry, going back to all your experience with radio and television and getting people to spend their money to do different types of programs to help their business. What is your opinion on some of the things that we could be doing, some of the things that we are doing, and some of the things that we're not doing? What could we do better, and what do we try to do the most of it that really hasn't helped us that much, Kerry?
Well, I would actually think that this is, we were joking before the show that everybody is going to get tired of hearing this term, the new normal, but it's an interesting spot that we're in collectively because none of us have ever actually been here at this precise moment before. So a lot of things are being tried. I do think, as Dr. Kevin Kilday had mentioned earlier in the show, I see that they were obviously concerned enough for our safety that they thought, well, we need to go to these social distancing and do all these correct things. And of course, when you shut down whole industries, it makes everything different. But I remain convinced that we're a resilient people. Just listening to Jessica Villanova and what you were saying about how enhanced property investments is looking at technology as a way to try to make things work. You're able to sit down with people who are trying to figure out how to maneuver in this time with the technology, that gives you guys a way to keep moving forward. I was hearing Dr. Kevin Kilday, who's used to sitting down, in a one-on-one consultation with a patient, probably in your office, that you found new ways to do this with the technology. And I think what's going to happen is we will have a bounce back because, Joe, we just did a Helping Seniors update the other day talking about the fact that here again, because of this COVID-19 and they don't want us to have large gatherings, we've had to postpone the Helping Seniors car raffle, which we originally were going to do the grand drawing on actually last Saturday night. But as we've talked about, and it's on the website, helpingseniors.carraffle.com, we're going to reschedule that because everybody wants to have that big gathering and have that great opportunity to enjoy just a fun night out at Mark Pylock's American Muscle Car Museum, and somebody will go home with a brand new car that night. But still, the reality of it is we can't set that date yet. But I do think it's going to come roaring back because I think people, somebody mentioned the term cabin fever before, and I think everybody's really ready to get out and make things happen. So while I know it feels a little wobbly right now with everybody not sure of what the next move is, I have enough confidence in just the way we as American people attack problems. We're going to find the solutions, and we're going to find a way to make a better outcome. I've said this many times from the Helping Seniors standpoint. Joe, you and I have talked for years about advocating for seniors and that we don't take enough time to be concerned with the needs of seniors. We're always busy, as we should be, with education for children and making sure that we're doing the right things for the under 18 crowd as they come up. But we have really had to stand on the wall for years and talk about the need for looking after seniors. And the one thing I think that is coming out of the COVID-19 thing is that everybody's understanding that we take a lot of the precautions because we need to be taking extra special care of seniors. So I think we're going to be all right.
Well, I agree with you, Kerry. And the thing that I found is sort of echoing what Teresa is saying and what Kevin is saying is that things like this pandemic probably could, the word pandemic could be applied to some other things that have happened in our countries over the year, but it simply hasn't been because of the inability of people to get the word out. But now we have the ability to get the word out, and more people are finding out about these things that they need to know about. And I'm thinking more and more along the lines that people are still interested in living their lives. And they're going to go to Kevin, and they're going to go to places like Enhanced Property Realties, and they're going to find out a way to continue their lives. And I thought one of the things that Kevin sort of talked about, but Teresa and Breanna talked about it in their notes they sent over for the show, and then was where you all talked about developing or devising ways to get the clients to still come and but be aware of the social thing. There really is no reason for people to be buddies when you're trying to conduct business things, and the fact that people go out and they try to maintain social distancing, that's a good thing. And there's some good things that have come out of all this. And in your business, Breanna and Jessica, what are some of the good things that you both have found out about that need to be done? You there?
Yes, sorry. This is Jessica. So we, like you said, we definitely see people who are trying to live their normal lives as much as possible and keep moving forward. Unfortunately, I'll start that with some of the negative things we've been seeing and how we're trying to keep that in positive light. You know, a lot of people buying properties right now have stopped buying just within the last 3 weeks. A lot of the larger companies, you know, your Open Door or OfferPad, if you've heard of these type of buyers that are larger corporate buyers, they are not currently buying properties anymore. They kind of just skipped out, if you will. So we're seeing some some negativity there. A lot of lenders are not lending right now, and FHA restrictions have changed for a lot of lenders because they are a little more fearful of how the market will move forward. The positive from that is, like we said, there are people like us who are still buying. It is possible to continue and move forward with what your plans were either before this or during this. If you've found in the last month that it is a necessity for you to sell, or if you're just in a situation you need to sell your property, you can sell your property. You can accomplish your end goals. They might be a little different than what they were before the pandemic. You know, you might not get as high of a price that you would have a couple of months ago. You know, that's just the reality of the situation. But, you know, things are still being processed, and there is the ability for you to have relief of a situation if you're in one and need it. You know, we've had to pivot a little bit with some of our work. We had a house that we were selling. We were supposed to sell it probably 3 weeks ago now. And the buyer lost their job, you know, not completely lost, but they're in a furlough situation, you know, like a lot of people are in right now. But we didn't just completely kill the deal either. We worked something out where they're going to be doing to the extent of a lease option, if you will. So we're giving them the time to, you know, get everything back on track with their employer once this passes over a little bit. You know, and unfortunately not every seller or buyer has those options. So we kind of specialize with sellers who need a very quick solution and don't have time to wait this out. So, you know, we can still assist there, but there are different options that buyers and sellers are going to have to deal with through this. So we are seeing a couple negative things, but we're still seeing some positivity too. You know, we are trying to keep all of our contractors employed. Real estate and construction is an essential service right now. And luckily a lot of those transactions on the construction side don't really apply to social distancing because guys can get in there and work without a lot of that. So, you know, we're trying to keep everyone employed, moving forward, and doing as much as we can see positive.
Well, you know, I think this is probably more a question for Dr. Kilday. Generally speaking, if we have a problem, we don't feel good, or we don't think something is right, and we go to a medical doctor, and we like to get medicines prescribed that sort of tend to help us right away. And when we think of holistic medicines, are there some medicines that, and when you were talking earlier in the show about depression and anxiety, and how this could make us could affect us, and I guess I get concerned about how can we, and I have the same problem with some of the dentists I talk to. Everybody's so concerned about the field of medicine as they've seen it practiced over the years. Now, here comes a guy like Dr. Kilday with a field of medicine that's been around for a long time. And while we've got people like Jessica and Breanna that are trying to do the right thing and how to help people with real estate, not high-priced salesmanships. And I guess that I have a hard time understanding how our people in our country will or can we adjust to stuff like this. And I'd like to go with you first, Dr. Kilday, and then you, Jessica, and Breanna. I'd like for you to talk about the same thing. And if we got enough time before the break,
Joe, if we can, this is John Harper. No, we need to take our break right now, and then when we come back from our bottom of the hour break, then we can get the answer to what you asked.
Okay, all right. Let's take our break now, and then we'll start back. Kevin, and you start first, and then Jessica and Breanna. Please remember now, all right?
Okay.
Let's take our break.
And more of helping seniors of Brevard with Joe Steckler continues next. Here's your host, Joe Steckler.
Thank you, John, and welcome back to the second half of this edition of Helping Seniors, folks. I had asked Dr. Kilday and Breanna and Jessica a question. Do you remember what my question was, Dr. Kilday?
Yes, sir. It was it's actually a multi-point question. You were talking about how to some, I guess, maybe some natural ways, alternative ways to help with some of these the things that are brought on by the pandemic, and to help people along with this, to move on with that, humans are they're able to really cope with anything, and at times we just need maybe some help. If you are suffering from any depression or anxiety or a lot of stress, I mean, there's nothing wrong with just calling up a friend, just talking with a good friend for a half hour or an hour, would help, or call up any mentors in your life that you may have, or even your spiritual advisor, your pastor. I mean, they're all here, really to help you, because this thing does bring about a lot of issues. I mean, everyone's worried about their elder family members, and Dr. Kerry, that was a real good point that you made, that that the spotlight now seems to be more on the elderly because of how this virus affects the elderly so much. So yes, the spotlight is now more on the elderly, which is really a very good thing, because there's been a lot that have been neglected and alone, and not eating, and it's just or they're in assisted living facilities, just being cared for to the best of their ability. But I think there's going to be a real focus now on the elderly, because of medical conditions or whatever the case may be. I mean, they're just at a higher risk, a much higher risk in this pandemic. So some of the things that you can do, some of the positive things, but a lot of people are not used to working at home or used to being home, out of work, and for the person who who was furloughed and never really worked at home before. I mean, here's just some of the things you can do. I mean, you have to learn to to prioritize, because it seems like when you're home and furloughed, you start getting into projects that you've been neglecting for a long time, and you can really overwork yourself too. But you can organize your time. Just pace yourself. Very important though is to get substantial amount of sleep. At least 7 hours, 8 hours if you can. That rejuvenates the body, that heals the body, and go outside. Make sure you wear a mask if you're going to be around people, but just go outside and go for a walk. I mean, exercise, increases the serotonin levels in your brain, and it makes you feel good. And also, if you're outside, just walking around for 20 minutes, you can really get your daily intake from vitamin D just from the sunshine. And vitamin D.
I think you're hitting on something that I thought about, and my wife and I had gone for a drive on Sunday, and I thought, gee, it's really nice to get out of the house. Right. And here's where there's a difference between an older person and a middle-aged or a younger person, I think. The older person, and especially Jessica and Breanna, people older that are trying to make ends meet, and they're trying to figure out how to do this, and they're older, and they have a different take on how to approach lenders and how to approach getting into a situation where they might have to, buy again a house. They maybe have a house that's paid for, but they just want to get rid of it. They don't like the size of the house. They want something smaller, but they find that they can't get that smaller house for what they could have gotten it for years ago. And now we get back into being on a depressed side. We can't make what we thought was going to go a long way for the future. We can't make it work for the present current situation. And the longer this pandemic thing sticks around, the more people we have that are affected by this. And Kerry, you have a couple of degrees, and do you follow exactly what I'm talking about?
I do, and I think it's an important point that you're bringing up, particularly while we have the benefit of Dr. Kevin Kilday being on the radio show because of his expertise and knowledge. In fact, the article you wrote, Dr. Kevin, was called, I believe it's called Mind, Body, Spiritual Health for Coronavirus. Now, before I'm going to ask you to comment on that, but then I was going to say that I wanted to bring out the point that I think this is so important, because when we're at a time where we haven't been in this particular environment before, we have to be creative. And the beautiful thing is our minds are creative, and we have, at least I believe, a God-given ability to work our way through situations that we get into. And so I see really a value of what's happening here, both with Dr. Kevin's expertise, but also I know from some of the great television programs that we've been able to do with Jessica Villanova and Breanna Goins of Enhanced Property Investments, that those guys are real problem solvers too. They have an ability to sit down and work with people and get them through tough times, even when we don't know exactly what's the next step. So I wanted to ask you first, Dr. Kevin, just to tell us a little bit about that article, because I thought there was some really good points that you made in there about the mind is dealing with stress and fear of the unknown, and the body is then trying to deal with immune compromises, and the spirit, I love this comment you put. Non-believers are probably more mad at God, but believers are praying more than ever.
Right. I just, when I was writing the article, that just came to me, and that is true. I mean, it's like I guess you could compare it a little bit, to a foxhole prayer, as they used to call it. When you're in a time of war and fighting the enemy, and things are getting real, real crazy. You start praying. When things that are getting to be life threatening, and I really believe that that Christians and believers are praying more today. Of course, because of the situation, church attendance is way down, but they're trying to make up for it with innovative ways with technology, doing Facebook church and other ways too, with video conferencing and. But it's a very important time right now, I believe, to get, closer, to God, spend, you have a lot of time on your hands. You can spend some quiet time with God, maybe read the Bible, prayer, but there's other things too. It's an old saying, just live one day at a time. Let go of the past, embrace the future. And what I like the best is at this time you start reflecting a lot. At least I do. And I'm sure it's common. You got to remember what family and friends and what this life is all about. And it's all about love, is what it's about. Love thy neighbor, love thyself, love God. It's all, a lot of it is based on love, LOVE. If you can do that, I think really anybody, can make it through this pandemic.
That's good. That's good. And I was going to ask Jessica and Breanna from Enhanced Property Investments, it really is about taking a look at ways to respond to changing circumstances. But that's really what your company is based on. You help. We've had the conversation in several of the television programs that we've had the privilege of working on together. I think you did one, Jessica, where we talked about the 14 steps that you have to go through in selling a house in traditional times. And yet you were able to explain how through problem solving and just trying to work with somebody to find the right path, you're able to really simplify that process. And it's that kind of creative thinking, I think, that gets us through times like this.
Yes, Kerry, I definitely agree with you. And Dr. Hiller, I agree with you too about, at the end of the day, it really all being about love. In the real estate market, I'm sure a lot of people don't usually think about love when they're buying or selling a house. There's probably a lot more emotions that usually are not on that level.
Oh, yeah,
unfortunately,
it's a very stressful time.
It can be a very stressful thing, and honestly, it really shouldn't. At the end of the day, like Kerry was saying, we can always talk you through what your options are, especially now. We don't want to see people just panic and make rash decisions. But we can still always talk one-on-one to help any homeowner figure out what their solutions and problems are. Like I said, we can do virtual walkthroughs and just really get on a personal basis. That's what we kind of pride ourselves on versus just being a traditional, buyer who's going to throw a number out there and then nitpick through an inspection and a whole bunch of frustration versus, like you were saying, going from the positive side of things. And I know Breanna has been putting a lot of information out there for us as far as other resources that there are available right now. If she wants to speak to that for a second, just as far as where we're trying to push some of those out as well.
I would like to know about that, Breanna, what Jessica's talking about.
Right. So basically, I've been trying to put a lot of info, especially on social media, because everyone's sitting at home on their phones all day, just to educate people on who we are, what we do, what our mission is. And like Jessica said, just because we're limited on social distancing and certain things like that, that doesn't mean that we're still not here for you and we can conduct business as usual, just in a virtual way. So, for example, I've been doing a lot of blogging and a lot of posts, like someone else had mentioned earlier on, that a lot of people are doing projects. So I've been posting some project ideas, how to do it the correct way, because we all think that we're DIYers until we start the project and then we're knee deep and we can't finish. So I've been posting some information about that, posting some information again with our seniors and, senior shopping hours and senior resources during all of this that's going on. And just to basically let people know that maybe we won't be able to see each other or shake hands or high five, but we're still here. We're still a community. We're still a major part of our community as much as we're trying to be. And we just want to let people know that we're here for them in any way that they need, whether they need help on a simple project that they're doing, or they've started a project and they don't know how to finish it. And now they're freaking out because they don't have any tile in their home, or whatever it may be. We're still here for whatever real estate issue you're having.
Right. Thank you for that, Breanna. And I know she's also been really awesome about posting any up-to-date info as we find it, as far as, the industry and COVID updates and relations, kind of like we mentioned earlier with what some of the moratoriums are coming out with tenants and evictions, and as far as mortgage payments and what assistance programs are out there. So a lot of good things are coming up in our industry as far as assistance for people other than, just buying your house. So we're trying to keep all those up to date and just put as much information up on social media and then our website. So if you kind of follow us a little bit, you can get some of that good information as soon as we do.
Right, because a lot of info that's been put out there, some of it is not necessarily accurate because there's a lot of information that we're all getting on a daily basis, especially in the real estate world. We just want to give the most accurate info that we can so people know that they can rely on us. We know what we're talking about because we're going to do our research and make sure that we know before we put it out there.
Jessica and Breanna, are you, when we talk about older people in the real estate market, do you find that the older people have a good understanding of the value of their property, or is this something that you have to do a very, very good job of helping them understand what it is that they do have?
I think you hit it a little earlier, Jill, when you were saying, and it's not just older people in general. I mean, I've already started using the phrases, when I was young and soda was a quarter, I've already found myself going down that road. So things have changed a lot, over time. Of course, they always do. So yes, sometimes it's hard for people to understand. We used to buy houses for $25,000 new builds, years ago, but that isn't reality anymore. So we just try, like you were saying, to sit with people one-on-one, kind of go through what their current situation is, their specific property. A lot of times people get these offers in the mail as well that are just numbers kind of thrown out there, and it's hard to understand that from looking at it, but we kind of bring in more of the information. Some people don't even understand how much some repairs cost. So we can break down that side of it. We can break down how much real estate transactions cost and just what values are in general and kind of show more of that breakdown.
Yeah, I sort of pick up on what you're saying, Jessica. If you ask a question, you get bombarded with about 45 or 50 different answers, and you don't really know what it is that you started out with in the first place. There's so many fixes out there, and that's why it's so important for people that are contemplating buying and downsizing and getting rid of their property to fully understand what the worth of their property is and whether or not they can get a loan company that will give them the money they need and how long it takes. Are you finding that there's a problem in getting a loan provider for property these days with this pandemic going on?
We definitely have seen some changes. In general, loans are still available, especially for homeowners. So people who are looking to shift into a new property, they have the most resources out there for home loans. Some of them are more difficult. Of course, there's a lot more income verification right now. Some of the restrictions are getting a little tighter as far as what credit scores have to be, that type of thing, but they are still out there. Where we've seen it really get tight is investor loans. So we have a team that we've been using now, for years, who are still lending and allowing us to purchase properties from an investment side. A lot of other investors are not seeing that resource right now because it's not available. Those lenders are kind of backing out. So it gives us the ability to continue what we're doing. But a lot of sellers are going to start to see that, I think, that there aren't going to be as many buyers who are able to purchase if their property is something that needs some work or that a standard homeowner is not going to be living in.
Well, I see a lot of things going on, and I see that there's a definite need for all of us to know more about this. Kerry, can you think of anything that we've forgotten to ask Dr. Kilday or the girls?
Well, I just want to remind people who are listening today, if you have access to the internet, we're probably all doing what we're supposed to be doing about staying home and social distancing. So I just want to remind everybody who's listening that there are some tremendous resources available absolutely free on the Helping Seniors of Brevard website. And in particular, I want to point you to a couple of radio shows that Dr. Kevin has done, radio and TV shows that are archived. Pain Relief Through Supplements is an example. Holistic Approach to Pain Relief is another. And there's several programs also, Joe, with Jessica and Breanna that I think are very instructional about real estate, and it makes sense to check those out.
I agree. And I would like for everybody that's listening to the show today to be mindful of the fact that we're still selling tickets on our car for the car raffle. And as soon as we get a date from Mark Pollock over to the museum, we'll announce that date, and we will tell with a personal postcard to all the people that have bought tickets exactly when the event's going to be held. We'll do the same thing we've always promised, and we will not let down on anything we promised you that we will provide you in the past for this. We'll make it a big show. We've got the cars lined up. AJ's concerned, as are all of us, because it is something that is essential. And folks, we know that people are buying tickets. And having said that, I'd just like to remind everybody that this is a different world in which we live. And it's different in the sense that we need to think about more about holistic medicines. We need to think about ways of buying and selling real estate that we need to think about fixer-uppers. We need to think about, an older home can really be fixed nicely if we know what we're doing. So I could talk on and on about that, Kerry, but I'm not going to do it. So I'm just going to wind up today's show and thank everybody for listening. And please join us next week. It'll be the first show of the month, and it'll be Attorney William Johnson on with us. And thank you, Dr. Kilday, and thank you, Breanna. And
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.